The warning alarms echoed through the crystalline halls of the Valari Council chamber. Thevenus stood before the massive viewing screen, his pale blue skin reflecting the red emergency lights. Behind him, 12 other council members whispered in panic. The screen showed what their best scientists had feared for weeks. A rogue stellar body, massive and dark, was moving directly toward their home system. "How long do we have?" Thevenus asked, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his chest. The chief scientist touched her data tablet with trembling fingers. 6 rotations? Maybe 7 if we are fortunate. But the calculations are certain. Impact is inevitable. 6 days. Their entire civilization had 6 days before everything ended. The Valari had built a peaceful society over thousands of years. Their cities were works of art, floating gardens that produced food and beauty together. Their music could make visitors weep with joy. Their philosophical texts were studied across 3 neighboring systems. But they had never developed weapons of war. Why would they? Their corner of the galaxy had been peaceful for millennia. Now that peace would kill them, what about evacuation? One council member asked. Our transport ships? We have 42 ships capable of interstellar travel, another replied. Our population is 400 million. We could save perhaps 50,000, maybe. The chamber fell silent. 50,000 out of 400 million. Those numbers were a death sentence. Thevenus closed his eyes. He had led his people for 30 years. He had resolved disputes, celebrated festivals, and guided them through minor crises. But this was beyond anything he had ever faced. This was extinction. We must send a distress call, he said quietly. To whom? Someone asked. The Melvari Collective is too far away. The Sorthian Republic has already refused. They said they lack the technology to help us. Then we send it to everyone, Thevenus declared. We broadcast across all known channels. Someone in this galaxy must have the power to help us. The council voted. It was unanimous. They had nothing to lose. 3 hours later, the message went out. It was simple and desperate. The Valari explained their situation. They shared their coordinates. They asked anyone who could hear them to please help. They promised anything in return. Knowledge, art, resources, anything. Just please help them survive. The responses came slowly. Most were messages of sympathy, but no actual help. Others were from species too far away to arrive in time. Some never responded at all. As the hours passed, hope faded like light from a dying star. Young Marisa worked in the communications center, monitoring every channel. She had barely slept since the crisis began. Her eyes hurt from staring at screens, searching for any sign of help. Around her, other technicians worked in quiet desperation. Every few hours, someone would break down crying. Others would comfort them, then return to their stations. Another negative response, someone announced. The Corthan Union says they are sorry but cannot assist. Marisa felt tears running down her face. She did not bother wiping them away anymore. What was the point? In 5 days, crying would not matter. Nothing would matter. Then her screen flashed. A new signal coming from a direction that made no sense. She leaned forward, checking the coordinates 3 times. The signal originated from a region marked with warning symbols in their star charts. The restricted zone. The quarantine sector, the place where no known civilization existed. I have something, Marisa called out, her voice shaking. A response from the quarantine zone. Every head in the room turned toward her. The room supervisor rushed to her station. That is impossible, he said. Nothing lives in that sector. It has been empty for as long as we have had star charts. The signal is real, Marisa insisted. Look, they watched as the message decoded. It was short, almost brutal in its simplicity. Received. Help incoming. Hold position. That was all. No explanation. No questions about payment or gratitude. Just a promise that help was coming. What does this mean? The supervisor whispered. Mel RISSA expanded her sensor range, pushing the equipment to its limits. What she saw made her blood run cold. Massive energy signatures were moving through space at speeds that should not be possible. They were coming from the quarantine zone, heading straight for the Velari system. Ships, she breathed. Huge ships. Moving faster than anything I have ever seen. The news spread through the council chamber within minutes. Thevenus stood before the viewing screen again, watching the approaching signatures. His people had no real military knowledge, but even he could tell these vessels were not designed for peaceful exploration. They moved with purpose in tight formations that spoke of discipline and organization. Should we be afraid? A council member asked. Thevenus did not answer immediately. The ships would arrive in approximately 8 hours. The rogue stellar body would arrive in 5 days. What choice did they have? Prepare a greeting, he said finally. Whoever they are, they answered when no one else would. We will welcome them and hope they truly mean to help. The hours crawled by like wounded animals. The Velari population watched their skies, waiting. Parents held their children. Artists created final pieces. Philosophers debated the meaning of salvation from unknown saviors. Everyone wondered the same thing. Who had answered their call? As the 8th hour approached, Marissa watched her screens with exhausted eyes. The energy signatures grew stronger, closer. Then they arrived. 27 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velari system. They were enormous, dark, and covered in weapons. They arranged themselves in a defensive sphere around the Velari homeworld with mechanical precision. Marissa stared at the images, coming through. These ships looked like predators. Every line, every angle seemed designed for violence. She felt a new kind of fear settle into her chest. Incoming transmission, her computer announced. The face that appeared on the screen was unlike anything in Velari records. Strong features, dark eyes, and an expression of calm determination. The being spoke in a strange language that their computers quickly translated. This is Commander Tiemann of the United Humanity Space Force. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Humanity. The word meant nothing to the Velari. They had never heard of this species or their space force. But as Thevenus looked at the fleet surrounding his world, he understood one thing clearly. They had called out to the stars for help. But what had answered was something the galaxy had forgotten existed. Something that had been locked away in the quarantine zone for reasons no one remembered. The Deathworlders had come. Commander Tiemann stood on the bridge of his flagship, hands clasped behind his back as he studied the blue-green planet below. The Velari homeworld was beautiful, he had to admit. Peaceful cities gleamed like jewels across the surface. No military installations. No defense networks. These people had built a paradise, never expecting anyone to threaten it. Establish communication channel, he ordered. Let's talk to them properly. Communications Officer Nari nodded, her fingers moving across her console. Within moments, a connection formed. The Velari Council leader appeared on the main screen. Tiemann noticed how the alien's skin seemed almost translucent, how delicate his bone structure appeared. The Velari looked fragile, like they might break if you touched them too hard. I am Thevenus, leader of the Velari people, the alien said, his voice carrying obvious nervousness. We are grateful for your response to our call. But I must ask, who are you? Where do you come from? Tiemann allowed himself a small smile. We are humans from a planet called Earth. Our territory lies in what you call the quarantine zone. He watched Thevenus's expression change. Fear and confusion mixed together. Good. Better they understood the situation from the start. The quarantine zone? Thevenus repeated. But that region is restricted. Our records say it has been closed for over 2,000 years. They say nothing can survive there. Not nothing, Nari interjected gently. Just us. Our worlds are different from yours, harsher. We call them death worlds. Thevenus looked like he wanted to ask more questions, but Tiemann cut in. We can discuss history later. Right now, you have a stellar body heading toward your planet. We have 5 days to deal with it. My team needs detailed scans of the object, its composition, and its exact trajectory. The Velari quickly provided the data. Tiemann forwarded it to his chief engineer, Minho, who was probably already itching to start working on the problem. Commander, Minho's voice came through the internal comm. I have reviewed the data. This is manageable. We can redirect it using standard demolition protocols. Standard demolition? Thevenus interrupted, having overheard. What does that mean? Tiemann gestured, and Minho's face appeared on a split screen. The engineer's enthusiasm was obvious even through the display. We will plant a series of nuclear charges on the stellar body, Minho explained cheerfully. Carefully calculated detonations will alter its trajectory enough to miss your planet. It is simple physics, really. We have done this dozens of times for asteroid clearing operations in our own colonies. The Villari Council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Tiemann could see the horror on their faces. Nuclear weapons? Thevenus asked weakly. You carry devices that can destroy worlds? Well, yes, Minho replied, seeming confused by the question. How else would we clear dangerous objects from space? You cannot just ask them nullishly to move. Tiemann suppressed a sigh. Engineers never understood diplomacy. What my colleague means is that we have the tools necessary to save your world. The weapons we carry have many purposes. This is one of them. You must understand, Thevenus said, struggling with the concept. We have never built such things. The idea of weapons that powerful is terrifying to us. Would you prefer we let the stellar body hit your planet? Nari asked softly. We did not come here to frighten you. We came to help. Thevenus was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You are right. Forgive us. We are not accustomed to this kind of solution. Please do what you must. Over the next several hours, the human fleet moved into action. Thevenus had agreed to let the Villari observe the operation, and Narissa found herself assigned to monitor the humans' work. She watched as small craft launched from the warships. Heading toward the rogue stellar body, the vehicles moved with incredible speed and precision. Inside them, she could see the humans working. They wore protective suits, but even through the armor, she could tell they were built differently than Villari. Thicker, stronger, they moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost predatory. Those suits protect them from radiation, Nari explained over an open channel. The stellar body is giving off dangerous levels of energy, fatal to most species within minutes. Then how long can your people work there? Melrissa asked. Our crews rotate every 6 hours. The suits can protect them for 12, but we prefer to be cautious. 6 hours. Melrissa did calculations in her head. A Villari would die in less than 10 minutes exposed to those radiation levels, even with protective gear. These humans could work for 6 hours straight. She watched as the demolition teams landed on the stellar body's surface. They moved across the terrain like it was nothing, drilling into the rock, placing their terrible weapons with careful precision. One human slipped on the unstable surface but caught himself with one hand, pulling himself back up while still holding his equipment with the other. The display of strength was casual, almost thoughtless. Melrissa realized with growing unease that these beings were far more physically capable than any species she knew. Your people are very strong, she commented to Nari. The human woman laughed. I suppose we are, compared to most species we have met. Earth has higher gravity than most inhabited worlds. We evolved to handle it. Makes us denser, stronger. Sometimes it's useful. What is Earth like? Melrissa asked, curiosity overcoming her fear. Nari's expression softened. Beautiful, dangerous. Our planet has extreme weather patterns. Violent storms, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, predators that hunted our ancestors, diseases that killed millions. But it is home. It made us who we are. It sounds terrible, Melrissa said honestly. It can be, Nari agreed. But it also taught us to survive, to adapt, to protect each other. When we heard your distress call, we did not hesitate, because we know what it feels like to face extinction. Down on the stellar body, the demolition work continued. Captain Hyunwoo coordinated the teams with calm efficiency. He had done this type of work before, cleared debris from shipping lanes, removed asteroids that threatened mining colonies. This object was bigger, but the principle was the same. Last charge in place, one of his team members reported. All units returned to ships. The crews evacuated quickly, their small craft racing back to the safety of the fleet. Youngwoo watched the countdown on his display. They had placed 47 nuclear devices across the stellar body's surface. The explosion pattern was designed to push it off course by exactly the right amount. Too little, and it would still hit the planet. Too much, and they might break it into fragments that would cause even more damage. All crews safely aboard, Nari reported. Detonation in 30 seconds? Thevenus stood in his council chamber, watching the same countdown. Around him, his people held their breath. Everything depended on these strange, powerful beings from the quarantine zone. These humans who carried world-ending weapons and used them to save lives. Detonation in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Space lit up with nuclear fire. The explosions bloomed across the stellar body's surface in carefully timed sequence. For a moment, the light was so bright that sensors automatically dimmed to protect viewers' eyes. When the light faded, Minho was already analyzing the results. He grinned at his displays. Perfect, he announced. Trajectory altered by 0.73 degrees. The object will miss the planet by a comfortable margin. Your world is safe. The Villari Council chamber erupted in cheers. Thevenus felt tears running down his face. They were saved. These terrifying strangers had saved them. Thank you, he said to Timon, his voice breaking. Thank you for answering our call. Timon nodded seriously. That is what we do. That is why we came. But as the celebrations began, Melissa noticed something on her long-range sensors. New signatures approaching the system. Ships that had not been there before. Commander Timon, she called urgently. We have new contacts entering the system. 28 vessels, unknown configuration. Timon's expression hardened. Battle stations. All ships, prepare for a possible hostile contact. The celebration died instantly. Thevenus stared at the new threat on his screens, feeling his brief moment of relief evaporate. The new ships emerged from faster-than-light travel like predators stepping from shadows. Their hulls were dark gray, covered in angular armor plating. Weapon ports lined their sides like teeth in a massive jaw. These were not exploration vessels or cargo transports. These were warships, built by a civilization that understood violence. Kreshver Dominion vessels, Nari identified, pulling up data from human intelligence files. Known hostile empire. They follow distress signals and attack weakened civilizations. Take them over while they are vulnerable. Thevenus felt cold dread wash over him. They heard our broadcast. They came to conquer us while we were dying. That is their standard method, Timon confirmed grimly. They likely expected to find your world already destroyed or your people desperate enough to surrender without a fight. Can we fight them? Thevenus asked. Hating how small his voice sounded, Timon looked at the tactical display. 28 Kreshver ships against 27 human vessels. Nearly even numbers, but he had fought the Kreshver before. They were aggressive, confident in their military superiority. They had probably never met real resistance from the species they preyed upon. They had never met humans. All ships, combat formation Delta, Timon ordered. Weapons hot. Wait for my command. The human fleet shifted positions, surrounding the Villari homeworld in a protective sphere. The Kreshver ships spread out, trying to flank them. Both forces circled each other like ancient beasts preparing to fight. Incoming transmission from the Kreshver, Nari announced. A face appeared on screen. The Kreshver commander looked reptilian, with scaled skin and cold eyes. His expression radiated arrogance. Unidentified vessels, you are interfering with Dominion business? The Villari system is now claimed by the Kreshver Dominion. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Timon studied the alien commander for a moment. Then he smiled, and it was not a kind expression. This is Commander Timon of the United Humanity Space Force. The Villari are under our protection. You will withdraw immediately, or we will remove you. The Kreshver commander laughed, a harsh rattling sound. You dare threaten us? We have conquered 40 systems. Our fleet is unstoppable. Surrender now, and we may allow you to leave alive? Last warning, Tiemann said calmly. Leave now. You chose death, the Kreshver snarled. Attack! The Kreshver fleet opened fire. Energy weapons lanced through space, striking human shields with devastating force. The bridge of Tiemann's flagship shook from the impact. Damage reports scrolled across displays. Shields at 82%, Lieutenant Junho reported. Minor damage to outer hull sections. The Kreshver had expected their first strike to cripple or destroy several human ships. Instead, they had barely scratched the shields. Confusion rippled through their formation. Return fire, Tiemann ordered. Target their weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy. We need prisoners for questioning. The human ships responded with calculated precision. Their weapons were different from the Kreshver's energy beams. Humans used railguns, missiles, and directed energy weapons in combination. Each shot was carefully aimed, designed to cripple rather than kill. A Kreshver cruiser took a railgun round to its main engine. The ship spun out of control, dead in space. Another took missile impacts across its weapon ports, silencing its guns. Within minutes, 6 Kreshver ships were disabled. Impossible, the Kreshver commander growled. No one can shoot that accurately. Attack pattern Omega. Board their ships. The Kreshver changed tactics. Their ships rushed forward, trying to get close enough for boarding actions. They assumed, like most species, that if they could get their warriors onto human ships, they would win in close combat. They had no idea what humans were like in a fight. Pilot Yunji sat in her fighter craft, watching the Kreshver ships approach. Her squadron had launched as soon as the battle started, ready to intercept enemy boarding craft. Enemy dropships launching, her wingman called. 24 craft heading for the flagship. Copy that, Yunji replied. All fighters intercept pattern Alpha. Let's make this quick. She pushed her fighter into a hard turn, feeling the G-forces press her deep into her seat. 9 gravities. Most alien pilots would black out or die from the pressure. Yunji just gritted her teeth and kept flying. Her fighter screamed through space, intercepting the lead enemy dropship. Her guns shredded its hull in seconds. She pulled another crushing turn, lined up another target, fired again. Around her, human fighters danced through the battle space like deadly birds. Far faster and more maneuverable than the Kreshver expected, but 3 Kreshver dropships made it through. They latched onto the flagship's hull, cutting through the outer doors with plasma torches. Kreshver warriors poured into the human ship. Ready to slaughter the crew, Lieutenant Junho met them in the corridor with his security team. The Kreshver were big. Nearly 7 feet tall, covered in scales and natural armor. They carried weapons designed to kill and terrify. When they saw the humans waiting for them, they barely paused. Humans were smaller than Kreshver. They looked weak in comparison. The first Kreshver warrior charged forward, weapon raised. Junho shot him in the chest, dropping him instantly. The others rushed forward together. What happened next would have horrified most civilized species. Humans had evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Their bodies were built for survival, for violence when necessary. Dense muscle, strong bones, incredible endurance. Junho and his team did not just fight. They destroyed. A Kreshver warrior swung his blade at Junho. The human caught the arm, twisted, and the bones snapped like dry wood. Another Kreshver tried to tackle a human soldier. The woman absorbed the impact, barely moving, then drove her combat knife through the alien's armor. The Kreshver had conquered 40 systems. They had fought dozens of species, but none of them had been from Deathworlds. None of them had evolved in hell and learned to love the fight. Within minutes, the boarding attempt was over. Kreshver survivors were on their knees, surrendering in panicked voices. Junho secured them efficiently, already calling for medical teams to treat their injuries. Back on the bridge, Tiemann watched tactical displays showing the battle's progress. The Kreshver fleet was falling apart. Human precision and aggression had shattered their confidence. Ships were disabled or fleeing. The few still fighting were doing so out of desperation. "Commander, the enemy flagship is hailing us," Nari reported. The Kreshver commander appeared on screen again. His arrogance was gone, replaced by fear. "What are you?" he demanded. "What kind of species are you?" "We told you," Teeman said calmly. "We are humans. We come from Deathworlds. Places your species could not survive for a day. And we have been fighting and surviving since before we could speak. You attacked the wrong system?" "We surrender," the Kreshver whispered. "Please." "We surrender. All Kreshver ships, power down weapons and engines," Teeman ordered. "Prepare to be boarded and searched. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." The battle was over in less than 2 hours. Human casualties were minimal, mostly minor injuries. The Kreshver fleet was destroyed or captured. Survivors were secured in holding cells, still trying to understand what had just happened on the Velari homeworld. Thevenus stood in his council chamber, staring at the screens showing the aftermath. His people had watched the entire battle. They had seen what humans were truly capable of when threatened. "They are monsters," someone whispered behind him. "No," Melrissa said quietly. She had watched too, seen everything. "They are survivors. They saved us from the stellar body. Now they saved us from the Kreshver. They are not monsters. They are just from a different kind of world." Thevenus nodded slowly. The humans terrified him. But they had also protected his people when no one else would. When no one else could? "Prepare a proper greeting," he ordered. "Invite their command staff to the surface. We need to understand these people. And we need to thank them properly." In space above, Teeman looked at his damaged ships and exhausted crew. They had done what they came to do. Saved a civilization from destruction. Protected the innocent. That was what humanity had decided to do when they first reached the stars. The galaxy was full of predators and prey. Humans had decided to be neither. They would be protectors instead, whether the galaxy wanted them or not. The human shuttle descended through the Velari atmosphere, heading toward the capital city. Inside, Commander Teeman sat with his senior officers, reviewing the cultural briefing Nari had prepared. The Velari were peaceful, artistic, philosophical. They would need to be careful not to frighten them more than they already had. "Remember," Teeman told his team, "these people have never seen real warfare before. They have never needed to fight for survival." "Be gentle," Captain Hyunwoo snorted. "We just blew up a stellar body with nuclear weapons and destroyed an invasion fleet. I think gentle might be too late." "Then be respectful," Teeman corrected. "We are guests here." The shuttle landed in a plaza surrounded by beautiful gardens. Velari citizens watched from a distance, curious but afraid. Thevenus waited at the bottom of the landing ramp with several council members. When the shuttle door opened and the humans emerged, Melrissa heard someone gasp. The humans were not particularly tall, but they moved with a confidence that made them seem larger. Their bodies were solid, muscular in a way that suggested strength without effort. They wore dress uniforms, not combat gear, but even informal clothing. They looked dangerous. Taem approached Thevenus and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for inviting us to your world. It is an honor to meet you in person." Thevenus returned the bow, though his hands trembled slightly. "The honor is ours. You saved us twice. We owe you everything." "You owe us nothing," Teeman said firmly. "We answered a distress call. That is all." The greeting ceremony was brief. The Velari had prepared a feast, but they quickly realized humans had different dietary needs. Medical Officer Sora politely explained that human digestive systems could handle most organic matter, but some Velari foods might be too delicate for their metabolism. "Too delicate?" Melrissa asked, confused. Sora smiled apologetically. Humans evolved eating a wide variety of foods, including things that would poison most species. Our digestive systems are very aggressive. We can eat foods that would kill you, but your refined dishes might not provide us enough nutrition. The Velari found this disturbing but fascinating. As the day progressed, they learned more about Earth and its inhabitants. Historian Jiwan gave a presentation about human history, and the Valari listened in growing horror. Your planet experienced 5 mass extinction events? Thevenus asked, unable to believe it. Yes, Jiwan confirmed. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts. Each time, most life died. But some survived, adapted, evolved stronger. Our ancestors survived the last one by learning to use tools and work together. And your weather, another council member said, reading through the data. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. How did your civilization develop in such conditions? We learned to build stronger, Yunwu explained. We learned to predict disasters and prepare for them. We learned that nature was powerful, but we could be clever. Every challenge made us tougher. Melrissa was reading about Earth's predators. You had animals that hunted your ancestors? Animals that could kill adult humans? Many, Sora confirmed. Big cats, bears, wolves, crocodiles, sharks in the oceans. Venomous snakes and spiders. Our ancestors had to be smart and tough to survive. Those who were not became prey. The Villari were silent, trying to process this information. Their own world had no predators. Their largest animals were herbivores that humans would consider gentle. The idea of growing up surrounded by creatures that wanted to eat you was nightmare fuel. But the predators are gone now, yes? Thevenus asked hopefully. Oh no, Jiwan said. They are still there. We just learned to coexist with them. Sometimes we hunt them for food. Sometimes we protect them because they are important to the ecosystem. Sometimes we just leave each other alone. Melrissa felt sick. These humans lived alongside monsters and considered it normal. Then Sora made a mistake. During a routine health check of the human delegation, she left her medical scanner where a Valari scientist could see it. The scientist was curious and looked at the data. What he saw made him call Thevenus immediately. You need to see this, the scientist said, his voice shaking. The human biology data. It is impossible. Thevenus reviewed the information and his blood ran cold. Human bodies had redundant organs. If one kidney failed, they had another. Their bones were incredibly dense, able to withstand impacts that would shatter Villari skeletons. Their muscles produced something called adrenaline during stress, temporarily increasing their strength and speed even further. They can survive injuries that would kill us instantly, the scientist explained. Their blood clots faster. Their immune systems fight off diseases that would devastate our population. And look at this, their brain structure. They can function with severe pain that would leave us unconscious. Why are they built like this? Thevenus whispered. Because they had to be, Melrissa said quietly. She had been researching human evolution all day. Their world did not give them a choice. Adapt or die. So they adapted. Again and again for millions of years. That evening Timon found Thevenus standing alone in a garden, looking up at the stars. You are afraid of us, Timon said. It was not a question. Thevenus did not deny it. Yes, your people are capable of terrible violence. You carry weapons that can destroy worlds. You fight like demons. How can we not be afraid? Timon was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. Everything you say is true? We are dangerous. Our world made us that way. But it also taught us something else. It taught us to protect each other. When everything around you wants to kill you, you learn that survival means working together. You learn that the strong protect the weak, not prey on them. The Kreshver were strong, Thevenus pointed out. They chose to prey on others. The Kreshver are not from a death world, Timon explained. They are predators, yes, but they evolved in comfortable conditions. They learned that being strong meant taking what you want. We learned differently. We learned that being strong means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Why? Thevenus asked. Why does that matter to you? Timon looked up at the stars. Because we know what it is like to face extinction. Our species nearly died out 6 times. Ice ages. Volcanic winters, plagues, wars we started ourselves. Each time we survived because someone chose to help instead of abandon. Because someone chose to protect instead of flee. That is in our bones now. When we heard your distress call, we could not ignore it. Even though we are strangers, Thevenus said. Even though we have nothing to offer you in return. Especially because of that, Timon replied. Because helping should not be about payment or reward. It should be about doing what is right. Melrissa approached them, carrying a data tablet. Commander, I apologize for interrupting, but we have detected something concerning. Our long-range sensors show Kreshver communication signals being sent toward their core territory. The survivors must have gotten a message out during the battle. Timon's expression hardened. They are calling for reinforcements. Will they come? Thevenus asked, fear creeping back into his voice. Probably, Timon admitted. The Dominion will want revenge, and they will want to know what destroyed their fleet so easily. Then we are still in danger, Thevenus said quietly. Yes, Timon agreed. But you are not alone. My fleet will remain here. We will protect your world until the threat is over. And I will send word back to human space. If the Kreshver want a war, we will give them one. Nari appeared from the shuttle holding a communication device. Commander, message from Fleet Command. They are sending reinforcements. 20 more ships, expected arrival in 4 days. Thevenus felt relief wash over him. Then he realized what he was feeling. Relief that more human warships were coming. More weapons. More of these terrifying Deathworlders who could destroy fleets and survive impossible conditions. 6 days ago, he had been afraid of extinction. Now he was grateful for the protection of monsters, except they were not monsters, were they? They were just people who had learned to survive in hell and decided to use that strength to help others. Thank you, Thevenus said to Timon. For everything. For coming. For staying. For protecting us. Timon nodded. You do not need to thank us. This is what we do. What we have always done. The strong protect those who cannot protect themselves. Earth taught us that lesson the hard way. Now we teach it to the galaxy. In the darkness of space above, human warships maintain their protective formation around the Velari world. Sensors swept constantly, watching for threats. Weapons remained ready. The crew worked in shifts, never letting their guard down. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. The Deathworlders had emerged from their quarantine zone, and they had brought their philosophy with them. Help those who call for it. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. Fight those who prey on the weak, and if anyone did not like that philosophy, they would learn what happens when you threaten something a human has decided to defend. 4 months had passed since the human fleet first arrived at the Velari homeworld. In that time, everything had changed. The Kreshver Dominion had sent 3 more fleets to attack the system. Each time, human warships had destroyed them with brutal efficiency. Word spread through the galaxy. The Deathworlders were real. They were powerful. And they were protecting the Velari. Melrissa sat in the newly established Joint Communication Center. Working alongside Neri, they had become friends over the months. An odd pairing that would have seemed impossible before. A fragile Velari and a human from a death world, laughing together over morning beverages. Your tea is still too weak, Nari teased, sipping from Melrissa's cup. Like drinking flavored water. Your coffee is like drinking liquid violence, Melrissa shot back. I tried 1 cup and could not sleep for 2 days. That is because you have no tolerance for caffeine, Nari explained. Humans needed stimulants to stay alert when predators were hunting us. We developed immunity to most common toxins. Everything about your species comes back to surviving predators. Melrissa observed. Pretty much, Nari agreed cheerfully. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert. New ships entering the system, but these were not Kreshver. The signatures were different, unfamiliar. Incoming transmission, Melrissa announced. They are hailing us directly. The face that appeared on screen belonged to a species Melrissa recognized. Thaurosian, a peaceful trading empire from 3 systems away. This is Ambassador Corvith of the Thaurosian Trade Confederation. We come seeking audience with the humans and the Velari. We wish to discuss alliance. Timon was on the bridge within minutes. Over the months he had learned Velari customs and protocols. He knew this moment had been coming. The galaxy was watching. They had seen what humans could do. Now they wanted to know what humans wanted. "Ambassador Corvith," Timon greeted. "You are welcome here. Please land your shuttle in the capital. We will meet you." The meeting took place in the Velari Council chamber. Thevenus sat at the head of the table, with Timon beside him. It was a symbolic gesture. Human and Velari standing together. Corvith arrived with a delegation of 6, all looking nervous but determined. "Thank you for seeing us," Corvith began. "We have been watching events in this system with great interest. The Kreshver Dominion has terrorized the outer regions for decades. No one has been able to stop them. Until now. We did not set out to stop them," Timon said. "We came to help the Velari. The Kreshver attacked. We defended. And in doing so, you have changed the balance of power in this region," Corvith continued. "Other species are watching, some with hope, others with fear." "Fear of what?" Thevenus asked. "Fear that the humans will become new conquerors," Corvith said bluntly. "You have proven you can destroy any fleet sent against you. What stops you from taking what you want?" Timon leaned back in his chair. He had expected this question. "Ambassador, let me tell you about human history. We had empires once. Nations that conquered others, took their resources, enslaved their people. Do you know what happened to those empires?" "They fell," Corvith guessed. "They fell," Timon confirmed. "Because conquest is not sustainable. Because oppression breeds resistance. Because ruling through fear creates enemies everywhere. We learned these lessons the hard way, through wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. When we reached the stars, we decided to do things differently." "How differently?" Corvith asked. "We protect but do not rule," Timon explained. "We help but do not demand payment. We defend those who cannot defend themselves. That is our policy. That is what our government decided when we first left our quarantine zone." Ambassador Wujin entered the chamber at that moment. He was human diplomatic corps sent specifically to handle these delicate negotiations. He was older than Timon, with gray hair and kind eyes. But Melrissa had learned to see past appearances. Wujin had survived the war that unified Earth. He was as tough as any warrior, just in different ways. "Ambassador Corvith," Wujin greeted warmly. "I apologize for my late arrival. I was reviewing the proposal your government sent ahead." "Proposal?" Thevenus asked. Wujin smiled. "The Thalrosian Confederation wishes to form a defensive alliance. They provide trade, resources, and cultural exchange. In return, human forces help protect their borders from aggressive powers like the Kreshver. Is this acceptable to humanity?" Corvith asked nervously. Wujin sat down at the table. "It could be, but we have conditions. First, we do not take payment for defense. We will not be mercenaries. Second, any species that joins this alliance must commit to the same principle. Protect the weak, do not prey on them. Third, we share technology and knowledge freely, but only for peaceful purposes. No weapons?" Corvith asked. "Defensive weapons are fine," Wujin clarified. "But we will not help anyone build fleets designed for conquest. If you want to join us, you join our philosophy too." Over the next several days, negotiations continued. The Thalrosian delegation was cautious but interested. They had questions, concerns, and fears. Wujin addressed each one with patience and honesty. Melrissa watched the proceedings when she could, fascinated by the process. She saw how carefully the humans handled everything. They could have simply demanded obedience. They had the military power. But instead, they talked, listened, and compromised. "Why do you do it this way?" she asked Nari during one of their breaks. "You could just tell them what to do." "Because alliances built on fear fall apart," Nari explained. "We want partners, not subjects. We want species that choose to work with us, not species that are forced to." "But it takes so much longer," Melrissa pointed out. Nari smiled. "We are patient. We have to be. Earth taught us that quick solutions often create bigger problems. Better to build something solid, even if it takes time. The breakthrough came during a conversation between Thevenus and Corvith. They were discussing trade agreements when Corvith asked a direct question. Why did the humans really come? What do they gain from protecting you? Thevenus thought about everything he had learned over the past months. The conversations with Timon, the history lessons from Juwan, the medical data from Sora, all the pieces came together. They gained nothing, Thevenus said quietly. That is what I could not understand at first. They came because we asked for help. They stayed because it was right. They fight because they believe the strong should protect the weak. It is not about gain. It is about principle. You believe them? Corvith asked. I have watched them for months, Thevenus replied. I have seen them risk their lives for my people. I have seen them treat injured Kreshver prisoners with the same care as their own wounded. I have seen them share their food, their medicine, their knowledge. Yes, I believe them. Corvith was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. And then I believe them too. I will recommend to my government that we accept the alliance. The formal treaty was signed 2 weeks later. The Velari Human Thalrosian Alliance. 3 species, different in every way, bound by a common promise to protect each other and help those in need, but they were not alone for long. News of the alliance spread through the galaxy. Other species sent delegations. Some were accepted. Others were turned away because they did not truly commit to the principles of mutual defense and protection within 6 months. 12 species had joined. The alliance was growing, and with it, a new way of thinking about galactic politics. Marissa stood in the communication center, monitoring dozens of channels now. Ships from multiple species traveled freely between alliance systems. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges brought artists and philosophers together. Scientists shared research openly. And protecting it all, human warships patrolled the borders, silent, watchful, ready. We have another distress call, Nari announced one day. A mining colony in the Kelrith system. They are under attack by pirates. Melrissa looked at her friend. Do we respond? Nari smiled. Of course we do. That is what we do now. A human battle group launched within the hour. Velari support ships went with them, providing medical aid. Thalrosian transports carried supplies. The alliance responded together. Timon stood on his bridge, watching his fleet jump to faster-than-light travel. He thought about the journey that had brought them here. A simple distress call. A dying world crying out for help. And humanity had answered. Now they were answering calls across this entire region of space. Building something new. Something better. Commander, Nari said softly. Do you think it will last? This alliance? This peace? Timon considered the question carefully. Nothing lasts forever. But we will protect it as long as we can. We will teach others to protect it. And maybe, if we do this right, it will last long enough to change the galaxy. Change it how? Nari asked. Make it a place where distress calls are always answered, Timon said. Where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. Where species work together instead of fighting over scraps. Earth taught us to survive. Now we teach the galaxy to thrive. Far away on Earth, the human government received reports about the growing alliance. There were debates about expansion, about resources, about the risks of taking responsibility for so many species, but in the end, the decision was the same as it had always been. The same decision made when the first human fleet left the quarantine zone?